Final session today in this track, we've got a panel discussion on the topic of gaming and the metaverse. Why is gaming such a key part of the metaverse and how it will help shape the future of a metaverse? Here to facilitate the conversation, please give a warm round a welcome to our moderator, Linda Bernardi, co-founder and CEO of XD Mind, and panelists who will be joining both online and physically. So Jack, you're back on stage, and I believe Linda's already dialing in. Soon.
Good morning, Michael. Okay.
Are we already live?
We are ready, and I think we are live. Good morning, Jack.
Hello.
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you. By here, we mean we have Europe, Asia, US, and all of you there. And the three of us could not be there, not because we didn't want to, but due to circumstances weren't able to, but we're there with you in spirit. So welcome to this session. This is a great panel where we're going to talk about the future of gaming, metaverse, the sort of the digital human. What does this all look like? And we're delighted to be here with you. My name is Linda Bernardi. I'm going to be the moderator of this session. I'll tell you a little bit about myself in a moment. But let me start off and have first my panelists go forward. Danny, if you can tell the audience a little bit about you.
Yeah, I'm Danny. I'm the Senior VP of AI at Unity. I have worked and led AI and machine learning efforts at Amazon and Uber, and now the most popular gaming platform in the world, Unity. And I think what I have seen over the years is an incredible development in this ability to connect people and connect them to the physical world, and bring these experiences up to a level that we have never imagined that we'd get to. And I think that we're only scratching the surface in this. And it just imagine what can become of the world and how we're going to interact with the world and interact with each other when you look at these great companies and what they have accomplished so far.
Thank you very much. Michael?
Yeah, thanks. My name is Michael Sprunger. I am the COO of Sony AI, which is a new organization established 2 years ago with a mission to unleash human imagination and creativity with AI. And one of our key focuses is actually gaming, and specifically bringing AI technology to creators and consumers. And at the core of this is, of course, my interest in AI for creativity, so everything from virtual humans to large-scale digital asset creation, but even more so around autonomous agents, which has been the part where I spent a lot of my career. So that's just agents that learn to interact in environments and interact with people. And we recently unveiled GT Sophie, which is a racing agent that learned to drive in the Gran Turismo game running on PlayStation. And to me, this is really sort of embodies main aspects of AI and what we can bring to gaming in terms of the interaction and the fun, but then also, of course, the technology for the creation of games themselves. And like, to me, when I think about metaverse, that's really what I think about. I really think about gaming experience, giving large scale experiences for people to interact with each other, but also with AI.
Very good. Thank you. And Jack?
Yes, my name's Jack McCauley, and former head engineer at Oculus and co-founder. I'm currently teaching at UC Berkeley in environmental engineering. I am blessed with having a great education due to the public in California. I also do research in cybersecurity, internet security, and so forth. So that's what I'm currently doing.
Excellent. And everyone, good morning. My name is Linda Bernardi. I'm currently founder and CEO of XD Mind. XD Mind is a music technology company, an AI company. And our vision is that we want any form of gaming, video, short form video, or the future metaverse that has a human on the other end to have the ability to be part of selecting the music and how music is identified for them. So what we do is we look at the video, we analyze the video through AI, ML, signal processing. We identify what music matches it. We bring it in and adapt it. And of course, a big interest of ours is the metaverse. So, and by background, my background's mathematics and AI, and I've held both big company positions as well as a serial entrepreneur. But more than anything, my interest is how we, as in this panel and all of you in Amsterdam, are a part of disrupting a future and what are we able to create. So with that, let's get into the panel discussion. And the discussion is really about what do we think the metaverse is going to look like and what role is AI going to have in the metaverse? And then we'll tie it on later on into gaming. So with that, Michael, let me turn it on to you to share some thoughts, just your open thoughts about what do we think this thing, the metaverse is?
Yeah, like to me, it's really about interactive experiences at massive scale, with millions of people. And then another aspect of this, of course, is kind of from a technology point of view, really bringing the real and the virtual, in some sense, making it indistinguishable. And so with this come very, very specific challenges in terms of the technology, right? We want to be able to create these worlds adaptively and interactively. And we want to basically also use the real world as an example in order to bring in assets, in order to bring in scenes, in order to bring in experiences. Actually, it's not just the physical things; it's also the sound, it's also music, it's all the things that create experiences in these virtual worlds. And that's to me then also where AI really comes in the sense that I see AI essentially as an enabler, as really the crucial enabler for us to create these worlds on the fly, adapt them on the fly to specific requirements and specific creative visions also. Like coming from Sony, for us, it's really important that there isn't just one vision of the metaverse, but it's actually multiple. And this is also true in gaming. There isn't the perfect game. In fact, every game studio in PlayStation thinks they are building the perfect game. Whether it's racing or whether it's an open world game or whether it's a large many multiplayer game. So like bringing this together with the technology really enable creators to create these experiences for us is really a crucial and a very, very important step into the future. And then finally, something that I already mentioned, and I just want to kind of go over this again because it is really my pet thing. It's also then about characters in these worlds, right? And so it's not just the worlds themselves, not just the assets, not just the sound and the musical experiences, but it's really also the non-player characters or the NPCs. Potentially the things you're interacting with, things that maybe collaborators that you have in these worlds that help you create things, but also navigate these worlds. And basically, I think it's sort of obvious that AI is the crucial enabling technology for all of this actually to happen.
Excellent. You pointed out a few things around experiences and AI and the people in these multiple worlds that I'm going to come back to. But Jack, let me turn it over to you. Your thoughts around the metaverse, what it is, and what role AI plays in it.
Yes. So let me roll back 10 years when we started Oculus and tell you why I got into Oculus. First of all, I liked the people I was working with. I didn't know them. They worked in a different part of gaming. They came in, introduced themselves, and then they had a prototype with them. I put the prototype on, and I thought it was very good. My thing was cockpit games, racing games, Formula One, Forza, Gran Turismo, games like that. That's what I wanted, is to be able to sit in a Formula One car. I could never drive a Formula One car or own one, but to sit in a Formula One car and race against greats, that was my emphasis there. Now, as far as the metaverse, there's a lot of opportunities. Creating a virtual world and living in the virtual world. You could have a career, a job. And sort of one of my points is like who's in charge of policing the metaverse and who's controlling the dialogue. And this is the problem, as I mentioned in an earlier talk, is who's curating the culture of the metaverse. And it's got to be an agnostic source, something that doesn't have the judgment and bias that human beings have, opinions. That is a good candidate for AI. And can Facebook do this? Facebook's not done this in the past. They curate with human beings. And there's, of course, biases built into this, and so this is sort of the issue. So AI's role there could be to curate the content and make sure that people aren't doing things outside the realm of acceptable social policies. And these social policies are what's the norm in normal culture, as I see it. So this is the role I see. Now, for a racing game, doing the vehicle dynamics in AI is a great opportunity. It's really hard to get the vehicle dynamics down. I worked on Williams' Formula One wheel. Oh, this is about 12, 13 years ago, and we were texture mapping the road surface into the wheel so you could feel the vibration on the road surface with sort of great results, not so great somewhat, but so that's sort of my thing, was like the racing games. I want to race a car. I'm not skilled enough to race a Formula One car, but that's what I wanted to do, or NASCAR or one of the other ones. So that was my thing.
So I think, Jack, what you're saying is in the metaverse, we can all become Formula One race drivers and do really well, which is an awesome proposition. Danny, you go around, talk to us about metaverse and AI and your thoughts.
Yeah. So Jack and Michael already covered a lot of ground here. The metaverse, it's about, graphics, audio, real-time interactive experiences. There's a social element. What I want to focus on here particularly is sort of the impact and role of AI in all of this. I think that I'm a software engineer of background. I think that we've been used to for many, many years, for decades, to sort of program deterministic systems. And what is clearly happening now is that the metaverse becomes such a complex beast. It becomes a part of our people, our reality. It melts the virtual with the real, and in all of that, you cannot hire 10 or 100 or 1,000 software engineers to just hardwire that experience. That experience is so dynamic that we actually need AI where it is today, and then leaps and bounds of progress going forward to create these very dynamic and very real experiences that are outcomes of interaction between people to people to the world, and the world itself. And I think that is what we are seeing these years. It's just the progress that had been made in AI in the last 5 years is creating real impact on gaming experiences and, broad interactive experiences. We have seen it during the pandemic. The pandemic really, it was underway, but it really boosted a lot of development of experiences over the last 2 to 3 years.
Thank you. One of the to our audience, one of the words you're hearing a lot is the word experience, right? And it's something that we haven't necessarily focused on. My passion in what I'm doing with our startup is around making sure that people can have personal experiences. Experience also means personalization. It means ultimately understanding the data of each person and being able to make sure that we curate experiences as opposed to running algorithms, right? And Michael, you started in your sort of discussion of the metaverse talking about experience, right? So when we think about the metaverse, these multiple worlds with people that are curating experiences as opposed to running algorithms, how do you see that world shaping, right? Any thoughts around the kind of the experience component of this?
So that's an excellent question. And my focus is really on the technology for enabling creators. So, the people that actually dream up these experiences. And also, as Danny and Jack to some extent also already alluded to, there's really an issue about scalability right now. So we cannot build games and these large experiences the way we did essentially in the last 20 years. Now, the good thing is that from a technology point of view, there's lots of stuff coming, right? That is super exciting. Foundation models, 2D to 3D stuff, right? Where we can take pictures and kind of create assets very, very quickly. And then also removing a lot of the manual work that goes into creating these virtual worlds, in the last 20 years, in bringing this into a form where, basically it becomes almost like a commodity in the way that you interact with these tools. And I think to me, that is really is one of the key things that we focus on at Sony I also is how can we make sure that essentially people, can focus on the creations that they want to do in these virtual worlds. And like that's really, to me, that's at the core of what we're trying to do here at Sony I, but also, of course, larger at Sony. And then leave it essentially to the people who have the creative visions for what it means to have a great experience. And for this, I think you need technology, but you also need a lot of creative vision. And like bringing those things together to me is really crucial, and enabling people to be able to fulfill their creative visions in the kind of best possible way. But as I mentioned, the good thing is, I think really there are things coming together, right? So the scale of networks, the scale of connections across the world, the scale of distribution platforms, together with the creative talent from around the world. I think this is really an amazing moment also for technology to shine and allow people to tailor stuff to whatever they want to do. And I think, we had a good example here already. I mean, we've worked on Gran Turismo, and obviously we have a few people also here in the panel here maybe that are really interested in racing as an experience.
Excellent, thank you. We'll come back to scale in a moment. Danny, you mentioned the sort of the dynamic nature of the metaverse, highly transactional. And can you talk more about that and where your thoughts are around where AI fits in that, and any other thoughts you want to share?
Yeah, the metaverse is so many things, and even your question is very broad. Yeah, so let me just take one angle on this, which I think is very fascinating, is that the metaverse allows us to sort of break down time. If you think about it, when in the metaverse, well, you can actually die and then you can respawn, yeah? You can play scenarios. I think that if you look at simulation as an integral part of the metaverse, you can replay scenarios, you can optimize scenarios, you're no longer bound by time and space. You have to think about the metaverse as an extension, not just an integration with the real world, but as an extension. Yeah, it can go into gaming, and gaming creates the foundation. Gaming have for many years been the foundation for simulation, but take that a step further and take it into areas like manufacturing or robotics, where you can actually replay many scenarios. You can optimize for functionality, for capabilities, for sustainability, because you're not bound by a sort of a fixed vector of time, but you can really move back and forth and explore different paths. That's something we haven't been able to really do before.
That's excellent. So we're not only not bounded by time, we're not bounded by any circumstances, which means we can test a lot of things. Jack, you've been very involved at the onset with the physical part of the metaverse. A lot of us, when we think about metaverse, we think about the gear we wear and the awkwardness of the movement of the hand. And that's a lot of times associated with the word metaverse. But kind of share your thoughts around that sort of the physical component of how we might be integrating into the metaverse.
Just let me back up on my earlier comment about curation. So if you build the metaverse, what are the policies and rules? And is there a constitution or a document that tells the inhabitants of the metaverse what they can do and what they can't do? This is an intriguing question. And is it up to a select group of curators who determine this, like a judge, let's say? And what do you do about criminality in the metaverse? And who's rich and who's poor? Who determines who gets rich and who has assets and who doesn't? These are really interesting questions. And much like society, it's not fair. Some people who have high skills and talent are poor. Most musicians are like that. And then others who sort of, nefarious beings or nefarious people are rich. So who does this and who determines who gets what? So to your question regarding the hardware and the aspects of it, there has to be a way to render. See, just let me explain something. Inside the headset, there's this thing called a GPU. And right now it's a Qualcomm part that's in there. Qualcomm's a company in the US and they make the parts. Got a graphics processing unit. But the cost of this is the new Quest Pro is $1,600. Who has $1,600 to spend on a headset? Not very many people, especially young people, don't have that kind of money laying around. So there has to be a way to render the images rapidly and then transmit them over the air into the headset and do the rendering, the remote rendering somewhere else, the remote graphics component somewhere else. This is a really challenging thing. To get the cost down in the headset so it's affordable but en masse is going to be very difficult to do. And it seems to me that Facebook isn't headed in that direction. I would want to render in a remote rendering situation on a server in the cloud somewhere. That's where you want to do your graphics rendering. And then transmit the images frame per frame to the headset. Now, Wi-Fi can't really do that. It's getting there. I mean, I remember just a few years ago, it's hard to watch a movie over LTE, 4G. It was just really painful. Now it's pretty easy. So it's kind of getting there, but there, Gaikai Entertainment and some other companies do this cloud rendering kind of thing. So this is the big challenge, and you have to be well equipped in this arena to be able to do this. This is not a simple problem to solve. So those are my comments.
Thank you. We have seen over the last 10 years emergence of many types of hardware and gear. And clearly, to make this accessible to all, we're going to have to figure that the physical side of it. But thank you, Jack. So when we think about the metaverse, often the first thing that people talk about the metaverse is gaming, right? That's the first use case that everyone thinks about. And however, the metaverse is also where retail is going to be done, where communication is going to be done, where healthcare is going to be delivered, where our worlds, these worlds are going to communicate, crossing boundaries, geo boundaries, and other. So let me sort of come back to you, Danny, and talk about kind of gaming in the metaverse and what do we imagine the use cases being to begin with, and your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I as I said before, I think gaming is really just the beginning, and gaming it's even hard to sometimes to sort of really frame what gaming is, because it can be a singular experience. You solve a word game or something like that, or it can be a highly social, highly scalable, highly immersive experience. Yeah, and that very quickly transition into other areas. Not that I want to promote it here, but for many years in military circles, you have used the idea of wargaming. Yeah, that's basically just simulating different scenarios. Yeah, when you wanna lay out a manufacturing floor, you may wanna game it. You may want to actually have a system played out to optimize it. And very recently, as recently as last week, we saw how DeepMind repurposed Alpha Zero, which was a Go and chess playing game, and changed the game to basically be a matrix multiplication game, and asked the system, can you gameplay this? And the system came up with a faster algorithm than the one we have relied on for the last 50 years, which is very important. So can you see how this idea of gaming situations goes into science and industry? That will have an absolutely remarkable change, an impact to our world.
So thank you. This is a great example of when we use gaming, we really are talking about gamification, simulations to expand our boundaries of imagination, right? And doing it in safe environments, because we can test scenarios and be able to do that in a sort of an environment called the metaverse. Michael, what about you? And when you think about sort of the first use cases of the metaverse and where gaming plays in that, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, again, so many things already touched upon, but as I mentioned earlier, like to me, one of the things that when I, for instance, look at what we do in Sony, there's a lot of like large open-ended worlds with a certain degree of realism, right? And the racing game that I talked about is one example. And that kind of links onto like a fundamental problem in AI and robotics, which is this kind of sim to real gap, which is a really fundamental problem for us in order to bring actually, robots to the world that are able to interact in a meaningful way in a household or in factories and so on. And essentially, to me, the metaverse is, if we think about sort of realism in the metaverse, simulation, and then also massive scale, that is actually the way to solve this, essentially, right? So we need to have systems that are real in some way, that have a simulative aspect, and then we bring in scale and we bring in kind of parallelism also of running these simulations. And then, of course, we bring in this technology reinforcement learning, which essentially, at the moment is one of the best ways how we build agents in general. But that requires massive simulations. It requires massive interactions with virtual worlds. And the closer they are in terms of realism and experience to the real world, the more we will have a chance to bring this technology then into the real world in terms of robots and autonomous cars and so on and so forth. And so, to me, that's like a really interesting kind of twist on this, because the better we make these experiences for people, the more people will use it, the more real it gets. The more people might use it, and then also we're kind of solving some really fundamental AI and robotics problems in the process, and that's where I get very excited.
Excellent. So we're really looking at building virtual global laboratories to run global simulations, bring the understanding and incorporate it back into things that we're building at a scale and possibility that we didn't have before. Jack, any thoughts on your part in terms of kind of the first use cases of the metaverse and where you see it leading?
Well, the obvious one is entertainment, which is where I worked for 3 decades. Keeping people entertained. A portion of Facebook and Twitter is entertainment. You're on it because you're on Facebook because you enjoy it, or on TikTok because you enjoy watching it. I took TikTok off my phone. I think it's addicting. And so there's a big aspect of it, just keeping people entertained. And for that, 3D movies are a pretty good application for it, and regular movies. But watching movies is also a crowd experience. You watch a movie with your fellows, and you both, sort of queue up and laugh at the same thing. So I don't know how you're going to integrate that aspect, social aspect, into it. But I keep going back to driving games and cockpit games. That's where I like. That's video games I like, and those are the most intriguing applications from my perspective. Also, being able to, a first-person shooter, a shooter game, not so much. Shooter games are a team effort. When you play a shooter game like Squad, you're playing with people all over the world. It's a social thing, and that's sort of missed, but it is a social thing. I mean, sure, you're shooting things and blowing stuff up, but there's a component of that. And so I think, if you're trying to play that in a VR headset, it's possible, but most people who play shooters don't really care about the graphics so much. In fact, the graphics are not the best, but it's the play, it's the story that's being told by the game too. So.
Okay. Thank you. From my point of view, the metaverse is really where I'm going to hone in on the word experience, in that we curate experiences. We want to have a more personal interaction with whatever it is that we're doing, which means that on the back end, there's a tremendous amount of need in AI to really understand the data at a scale we've never encountered before. The numbers of what the scale of the metaverse is going to be is massive. So I want to turn to our panel and talk about, what do we think in terms of scale, and what are some of the opportunities and concerns we might have in terms of how to manage such a scale. So Michael, I'll turn on to you to focus us a little bit on the scale component.
Yeah, I mean, scale is, of course, like a crucial part of gaming. And, a lot of the keywords already came up here: massive social interactions across the globe. And so that comes with huge challenges for delivery platforms. But going back to an earlier point I already made, but that we kind of want to reinforce here, but it also increases this opportunity for creators to really create a lot more, in a kind of faster amount of time, just in a more quick way, in order to kind of create these constant delivery pipelines to keep people engaged and have new experiences. And then on top of this, of course, the gaming platforms, they are now stages for music concerts and even movie experiences, right? And we've seen this in some of the really large games. And that's really a whole new world of creativity and social interaction for the first time in these massive 3D virtual worlds. And that I think brings challenges in creation and in delivery. Probably some of them, we haven't really solved, even though, of course, we have massive scale platforms like Facebook and so on. But I think that, doing this in 3D worlds, I think does bring its own challenges, because it's just much more data that needs to come across essentially, and a lot more coordination that needs to happen in these worlds, right? We're kind of moving from sort of text and images to massive 3D worlds. And and then finally, again, it's sort of a point I already hinted at, but the massive scale, I think, is a huge opportunity for AI systems. I mean, we're going to have sort of interactions between AI systems and creators and users of the technology in a way that we've never had it before. And because it's 3D and because it might, it will become more and more real in the sense of simulation aspects, the physics of it, and so on. That creates a massive opportunity in terms of leveraging scale for training AI systems, and that's kind of the flip side of it. And this is where sort of the development of the technology and the delivery of the content kind of come together. And I think really it's going to create something completely new. Actually, it's sort of like, I think it's in some sense we're like at the beginning of when a movie was invented or something. So we don't even know yet what all the consequences are in terms of the creative potential for this technology.
And here is a term that we're using. We used the term experience. Now we're using creator, because the participants of the metaverse, we're going to become creators and curators as opposed to consumers and just passive digesters of information. So this makes scale even of a different level. Jack, any thoughts on scale of what we might be encountering?
Well, I'll take a case study, and that's Grand Theft Auto 5. I don't know how many people play that game here. That's a really good game. It's the best. But the amount of artwork and amount of components that were created for the game, there was an artist doing that, a team of artists creating the buildings in CAD, in AutoCAD specifically, and shading and so forth. If you could automate that, and they spent a quarter billion on the game, and another 200 million or so on marketing, $500 million. They could cut the time domain down to create the game, and there's a lot of things that could be done. So I think just being able to create the scenery, just give us general description of the scenery to an AI engine, and then have it create the scenery, and then go in and touch it up. So there's a great application right there.
Okay, thank you. So Danny, let's talk about scale. At Unity, of course, you deal with mega scale. And now we're gonna, I think last time you and I were on a panel together, we weren't talking metaverse. So now we've gone into the uber large size. So talk about scale and what you think that is, and any challenges that you see coming with it.
Yeah. So at Unity, we see somewhere between 3 to 4, just below 4 billion monthly active users playing a game on the Unity platform. But scale is many things. It's also 400, 500, 600 games released every day. Yeah, maybe 100,000 game developers. But that's really not enough. Yeah, we want a big share of those several billion players also to be creators. We want millions of creators. We want 100 million creators. Yeah, scale is many different things, and I think the openness of the metaverse is a very important component here, to see that creativity blossom, so that we don't rely on those in quotation marks, Hollywood productions, where billions of dollars went into producing a fixed narrative, but that we allow millions or even 1 billion people to be creative and to be a part of the narrative and control the narrative. And I think that is the important part, to think about the metaverse as a natural evolution of the internet.
Excellent, thank you. Our time is coming to an end, and I would like to ask our fabulous panelists to spend about 30 seconds of the message you want to leave the audience with when we think about metaverse gaming. Jack, I'll start with you.
I alluded to this, and this is more not a technical issue really, but it's how to curate the platform for different cultures. For instance, one set of rules for a culture in the Middle East is not the same set of rules for a culture in the West. That's just the way it is. And what plays in Asia does not play well in the United States, and vice versa. So these are the things. How do you construct a rule set for the world with one platform? It may not be one platform for the world. It may be different platforms for different countries or different cultures. So this is the problem I see it. Also, in addition to that, who's making the rules about who gets what? If you work in a virtual world, in the metaverse, you may have a job there. Who determines what your pay is, and what is the currency? Is it crypto, or what is it? So this is a challenge that I see, and I think the technical part of it, how to create the scenery, and that's kind of like cut and dried stuff. But I think that also, whoever's doing this is opening themselves up to problems with different places. Like some places, Mark Zuckerberg's already in trouble for what he's done in the United States, and
I wish we had more time, but thank you for that, those thoughts, and what we should be thinking about as we think about building the world, Jack. Danny, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that the biggest challenge we have is climate change, and I think that we should use the metaverse to help us solve that challenge. The metaverse can allow us. We've already seen that during the pandemic. It allowed us to travel a little less, accomplish a little more, and work closer together at a global scale.
Thank you. And Michael?
Yeah, I think it's. I think the message is. I'm just really excited about this new world. I think it's really amazing to see these technologies come together and kind of opening up completely new opportunities for people to create, but also to marketplaces and profit from their creations. I think it's I always think of technology, specifically AI, as an empowerment technology. And I think this is just another example of this, where hopefully we can bring in more people from the global community into these worlds in terms of creation, and create also economic opportunities for people. And so I'm just hugely excited about this. And then, of course, also, again, what I mentioned before is sort of this, I think it has sort of dual consequences, not just for people, but also for the systems we build. And I think it's just a whole new set of challenges, but also opportunities to create just amazing technology.
Fantastic. And I would add to all the great comments that Metaverse has huge opportunities. For the audience, I hope that as you're going through the experience in Amsterdam, you're leaving your receptors open, the possibilities. We don't have all the answers, but from my point of view, we have built technology for the last 50, 60 years to get to this point, to build something magnificent. We don't know what it is, but we have all the parts, and there's something magnificent ahead. So thank you to great panel. Thank you to the audience for being with us. And I wish you a fantastic journey for the next few days in Amsterdam. Enjoy. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks a lot. So that wraps up this track. Thank you again. Thanks to the speakers, the panelists, yourselves for taking the afternoon and staying focused on the metaverse. Lots of things, time travel, digital twins, articulation of a or the for the metaverse, and so forth. We've got a short break until 6:40, and then the plenaries restart over in the main stage. So thanks again, and it's been great to be your chairman for the track today. Have a great rest of the afternoon.